Hello, fellow Rebel Capitals. Hope you're well. Boy, we have got a lot to talk about today. How the markets are responding to all of these executive orders. Whew, we've got meme coin madness. And also what I think, I'll give you my take on the executive orders that Trump has already signed. Now, if you're wondering why on earth I am wearing glasses, well, I will reveal that to you right now because I am officially part of the External Revenue Service. That is right. Trump's new external revenue service, not the internal revenue service. This is exactly what their agents are going to look like when they get all that money from China. It's going to make us Americans rich, according to Donald Trump. Actually, I've just got an eye infection, so I want to spare you guys because it's a little gross. But getting into the big topics of the day, let's go over how markets are responding to all of the insanity that we have seen since yesterday, day one. First of all, we've got oil down 2.3%. That's interesting. So it says, you can never really trust these headlines because they have to give you some reason, even if the reason is just there's more sellers than buyers. U.S. crude oil falls more than 2% as Trump weighs tariffs aimed to boost energy production. Okay, maybe that's the narrative that the market's trading on right now. What this means is Trump is going to be very friendly for deregulation of energy extraction in the United States, maybe offshore drillers, etc. And therefore, the market is pricing in some more supply coming online at some point in the future. Maybe. I don't know that I would personally buy or sell oil based on what happened yesterday, because I think there's so many other things that are more important that goes into the dynamics. What on earth are some of these ads? Some of these ads are bananas that you get on here. Anyway, let's look at the U.S. markets here. We've got the Dow. Is there any way I can get rid of this fat guy with tattoos? I mean, what is that? All right. Yes, stop seeing this ad, please, immediately. Dow is up 472 points. S&P up 51. Now, the Dow Jones is up at a higher percentage, 1%, where S&P up 0.87. NASDAQ up 0.75 or 146 points. The VIX, I think, which is probably more important, that's low, or a lot lower, not at all-time lows, when we get down to 10, 11 range, but right around 15. Let's look at the dollar, because you guys know that that's kind of what I like to focus on, is the dollar and the 10-year treasury yield. So dollar is down a little bit. I would assume this is because Trump was a little lighter on the tariffs, or his rhetoric was a little easier on tariffs. I mean, who knows how they're going to play out. And the market had priced into the dollar, 100% tariff on China, 25% tariff on Mexico, Canada, yada, yada, yada. And I didn't listen to the speech yesterday, but the market perceived that as being a little more, I don't know, dovish is the right term, on the tariffs, a little less aggressive. And therefore, the dollar sold off. Now, I think it's very, very important that we see the dollar. It's not like it tanked. I mean, it went down, that's for sure, which is important to note. We've got to note that the dollar went down, because this does give a little more breathing room to those foreign economies that are so dependent upon the dollar going lower. So that dollar-denominated debt and all their input costs, not all, but most of them are denominated in dollars, such as commodities. So economies like Japan, which, by the way, matter. It's the third largest economy in the world, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it's the third, or maybe it's Germany, but it's either third or fourth. So what happens in Japan definitely impacts the global economy. And it's not just Japan. I mean, it's countries like China, it's countries like India, it's countries like Brazil, etc. So the dollar has gone down significantly. This is big news, but I think we need to zoom out and realize that although the dollar has gone down, it's still at 108. It's still at 108. So let's go back and We've got the 1-day chart. Let's look at let's look at a 3-year chart. So good size move on the day, that's for sure, 1.21%. That you don't see that type of move in the FX markets often. But in the grand scheme of things, the dollar is still relatively very high, which is still putting a lot of pressure on the global economy. That is really the main takeaway. Let's go back to CNBC and look at the other thing that I like to pay very close attention to, and this is the 10-year Treasury yield. Down 3 basis points today. So we're trading at 4.58%. This is down from a high the other day of 4.8. So we're down about 22 basis points. And I would assume this is a result of Trump being a little less aggressive, or the rhetoric being less aggressive towards tariffs. Now, people think that if there's tariffs, my guess is that the way they're connecting the dots is higher tariffs means higher inflation. Higher growth and inflation expectations means a higher interest rate at the long end of the curve. Now, I don't know how much tariffs would cause overall inflation. They would definitely increase prices at places like Walmart, Home Depot, etc. But there's more to the basket of goods and services than just those 3 stores. So at a certain point, like I always say on this channel, if you're not increasing the money supply, and it's not just increasing the money supply, because there's a lot of steps in there. What I mean by increasing the money supply, I'm using it as the proxy for lending into the real economy. And if there's lending into the real economy, assuming that's being done productively, that means that the corporations are taking that money and using it to expand, to grow, to hire more workers, to increase capacity, to sell more stuff. And if they're able to sell more stuff, then they can go ahead and increase the amount of money they are paying workers. And then those workers can afford to pay the higher prices at Walmart, and they can afford to pay the higher prices at XYZ store, where if they weren't getting that wage increase, they would be taking the money away from what they're spending at XYZ to spend it at Walmart, assuming this represented the goods and services they need compared to the goods and services they want at XYZ. You see, so I know a lot of times I skip steps and assume that everyone's kind of following along with me, but that's why I always look at M2, and that's why I look at the expansion of credit. It's not because I think that we should just be taking out our credit cards and maxing them out. I'm using that credit as and therefore M2 as a proxy for what corporations are doing to increase the economic activity that would allow them to pay the workers a higher wage without decreasing their margins to the point where they're waving the white flag and having to lay off workers. See, that's how I'm connecting those dots. I don't explain that as much as I should. But I think that's what's moving the 10-year Treasury yield. We could have seen a peak at 4.8. I would not be surprised if we fast forward over the next 6 months, if that 4.8% the 10-year was a high water mark. Gold up $11. Not sure why. Probably, again, just more buyers and sellers. I hate to do what the mainstream media does and always try to attach a reason to something, even though you don't really know what the reason is. I can just give you my guesstimation here. As far as gold going up, if I had to guess, why would it go up? It'd probably go up because I have no idea. I'm going to just leave it at that. I'm not going to give you an answer if I don't have one. There's more buyers and sellers. Let's move on to Bitcoin. Is up, wow, 106. So, oh my gosh, it got it to 109 yesterday. Holy cow. This is just mania. This is hysteria. This is, and you know what's weird is when I say that, people assume that I'm negative on Bitcoin and I hate Bitcoin and I'm anti Bitcoin and all these things. I think that's a real problem because think about that. I can't even say that in the 10 that the reason it likely went to 109 is because we had this mania around the meme coins, which we're going to, not just mania, but this complete crap show in the meme coin space. It probably bled into Bitcoin going a little bit higher. They probably got a tailwind as a result of that. I can't even say that. I mean, think about that without people labeling me anti-Bitcoin. I'm just stating the fact here. Why does it, think about if I did that with oil, right? About you guys know that I think we're in a long-term commodity super cycle. Think about if oil was up, whatever, $5 or $6 on the day, and I said, it's probably a lot of speculation going into, let's just say, Trump filling up the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And all of my comments on Twitter were just like, oh, George, I don't know why you hate oil. Okay, I guess you're ESG now. Why are you anti-oil, George? Wouldn't you look at those comments as though they were completely irrational? But for some reason, that's the norm with Bitcoin. I think there's an interesting psychological phenomenon going on there. And I don't want to dive too much into that. But this has no reflection whatsoever on what I think on Bitcoin, just to be super, super clear. I think everyone should own Bitcoin. Why? And we're going to get into this in a moment when we get into the meme coin crap show madness, Ponzi scheme, pump and dump, whatever you want to call it. But why is it that I like Bitcoin and I don't like Fartcoin? It's not just that I'm, a diehard Bitcoiner and that's the only thing, and you're part of the religion or the cult or whatever. No, Bitcoin's the only one that's decentralized. That's it. Oh, that's not it. There's a couple other components in there why I really like it. But look, if something came along that was decentralized that I thought was just as good or offered just as much value as Bitcoin does, I would gladly buy it myself. I would gladly say that, hey, maybe you should consider this. I wouldn't just immediately call it an S coin just because it's not Bitcoin. I want to make sure that's clear. It's all about decentralization. That's what it is all about. I mean, it's not about the price goes up. It's not about that there's only 21 million. It's not about blah, 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 blah. It's not about that the government can't print it and, all these things. There might be some nice features there, but at the end of the day, the reason I like Bitcoin, the main reason, is because it is decentralized. Therefore, it is purchasing power outside the system. It's purchasing power that can't be frozen. In other words, you can't be debanked, right? Try owning Butthole Coin or Melania Coin. And if they want to freeze that, the central planners, they can do that immediately. Ethereum, or what? Just throw in the let's just say coin that is not Bitcoin. It's all centralized. It's all centralized, and that's the real problem. And to me, that's why Bitcoin is special, and that's the main reason why I own it. That's the main reason why I think other people should own it. Anyway, getting back to this here, we looked at the bond market. Okay, look at, curious what the yen is down, even though the dollar is down. Okay, so that would mean, it's weird how they do these cross currents. Sometimes it's in reverse order. So I think that means the yen is actually gaining value. where this means the euro is actually up. Okay, yeah. So that makes sense. Overall, I think the main message here is you are seeing heavy duty risk on. Risk on. You're seeing mania, you're seeing hysteria, you're seeing a lot of decision making based on pure, unadulterated emotion. And I don't know if that's a good thing long term. I think it's just something to be aware of right now. And I think maybe the whole message of this video is going to be trade-offs. It's going to be asking the question, at what cost? So as an example, all these meme coins are going up. We've got Melania coin. We've got Trump coin. We've got the preacher. I don't even know what this coin is called. I tweeted it. We'll go over it in a minute. We've got the preacher that actually was at the inauguration. He has his own meme coin. Isn't that fantastic? And now we have ETFs for Trump coin. So we don't just have Trump coin, we have an ETF for Trump coin, at least in the works. We have an ETF for Doge coin. I'm sure we're going to have Baron coin very, very soon. I don't know why we don't already. I'm sure we're going to have Greenland coin. I'm sure we're going to have the Gulf of America coin. So you say, George, we're just having fun here. What's the problem? There's a ton of meme coins out there. It's the latest craze. Who cares? Well, okay. What I want to do is step back and then look at where does this take us longer term? What does this represent as far as the direction our society is headed? And if you think this has no bearing or this isn't a reflection of where the American society is, I think you are sadly, sadly mistaken. I think you're lying to yourself. Right? So I want to determine, just like looking at a meme coin, we'll look at Melania coin. You say, oh, George, well, there's going to be some people that make money on that. Absolutely. But there's going to be a hell of a lot more that lose. So we have to ask ourselves, on net balance, is Melania coin a good thing or a bad thing? And then also, what does Melania coin represent about the principles of our fearless leader, Mr. Trump? And I pound the table on principles over and over and over and over again. And a lot of people just say that I'm an old man screaming at clouds. And that's fine. You can go ahead and say that. But that at the end of the day, right, Trump is going to be tested. Now, I don't know whether that's going to be with a recession. I don't know whether that's going to be with another cerveza sickness. I don't know whether that's going to be with a world war. I don't know whether that's going to be a natural disaster. I don't know what it's going to be. But he's likely going to be tested to where it's not just like a Saturday night going to the UFC. Or it's not like coming out having this big parade and in Madison Square Garden or in front of an audience of 50,000 people where everyone's cheering for him. He gets to sit there and sign and wave and smile for the camera and hug babies. Right? Meaning that right now you're in the honeymoon phase. This is all easy. Look, all Trump is having to do is sign things. It doesn't take principles to do that. It takes principles to make the right decisions when the going gets tough. Right? So you got to ask yourself, what does him shilling a meme coin, what does him obviously getting behind Melania shilling a meme coin, what does that say about his principles and what does that say about his integrity? Because even if you sit there and say that there's a lockup period and all these things, oh, well, Trump's not going to pump and dump it. Absolutely not. Oh, really? That's fine. You think that he doesn't know that other people are going to do that? And you honestly believe that Trump doesn't realize that the majority of the people that buy that thing are going to lose everything. Of course he does. Of course he does. And he still does it. I mean, you got to ask yourself, would you do that? Would you do that? Would you create your own meme coin if you knew that 90% of the people that put their trust and faith in you were going to lose everything they had putting into that, not everything they had, but everything they put into that meme coin? Would you still do it? My guess is the majority of the people watching this would say, no, I'm not going to do it, because I'm not going to sell out my integrity, because I have morals, I have principles, I have ethics, and I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Now, to each his own. Everyone's got to make that decision. But Donald Trump and Melania can obviously sleep very well at night, even though they're billionaires, for heaven's sakes. I love the argument that, oh, well, he's just using some of this money. It's like a new GoFundMe campaign. No, it's not. Because in a GoFundMe campaign, you're knowingly giving that to some person and knowing that you're basically giving it to charity. And by the way, why does Trump need charity? First of all, even if it is a GoFundMe thing, right? But what these people are doing, and even if a percentage of the people that are buying Trump coin are doing it as a gift or a charity, you know damn well there's a large group, a large percentage that are doing it to get rich and doing it because they're caught up in the cult of MAGA. They're so emotional about it. They're like, oh my gosh, Trump is changing everything. Oh my gosh, Trump can walk on water. Oh my gosh, these tariffs are amazing. Oh my gosh, the External Revenue Service, it's so incredible. It's going to eliminate the IRS. They're telling all these things. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. Go MAGA, go Trump. Yeah, I'm going to take my $100 from my paycheck and buy Trump coin. Yeah. And if they wouldn't have been caught up in all this emotion, there's no way they ever would have done that, because they likely needed that $100 for something else. That's the problem. That's the problem I have with it. So let's go over to Twitter on that note. And a lot of people I saw commenting were saying, oh, well, George, Trump just licensed his name to this coin. He doesn't, it's up to those people what they do. It's not like Trump is pumping this, or it's not like Melania is pumping this. Like, whoa, dude, pump the brakes here. You obviously haven't been following this. Here's a tweet straight from Melania. I assume that's her account. Silver check mark here, 3.6 million followers, right? Melania. The official Melania meme is live. This is straight from her account. You can buy Melania coin right now. And this is this, I guess she's just laughing because she's ripping off so many people. I guess she finds that funny. I'm promoting a pump and dump Ponzi scheme. Oh, this is so cute. And look, I voted for Trump. You guys, because I was really a one-issue voter. It's all about freedom of speech. And the fact that he hopefully is coming through on that, I think is absolutely a good thing. And I'm going to sit there and tell you the things that Trump does that I think are good. And there's quite a few, right? We're going to get into that at the end of this video when I go over kind of a list of the executive orders that he's done. Some of them I think are fantastic. But just because I think that some of the things that he has done are fantastic, that doesn't prevent me from criticizing the things that he is doing that is borderline criminal, for heaven's sakes. That's what objectivity means. And unfortunately, right now, so many people are caught up in this MAGA thing. I think they have totally and completely lost all objectivity. As an example, I put out a tweet today, and most of my tweets, by the way, are just kind of a stream of consciousness. I don't really think about them too much. But I think this is absolutely pertaining to at least what I'm seeing online right now with a lot of the people that support Trump. A lot, not all, but a lot of them. And I think this is, I hate to use the word dangerous, but I mean, I don't know what other word to use. I say Trump derangement syndrome not only includes people who think he is the leader of Germany in the 1930s, but also people who think he is Jesus. And you say, George, nobody thinks that. Oh yeah, go ahead and read the comments on some of my tweets. Read the comments on this video that you're probably watching. I'm sure a lot of people will give me a thumbs down on this because I'm sure I'm pissing off a lot of viewers right now, which is what it is. You know, hopefully you don't tune in to hear your opinion come out of my mouth. Because if you do, you're tuning into the wrong guy. I can assure you. If you're tuning in to hear me be authentic and to tell you what's on my mind and give you my opinion, whether or not I get views or subscribers or whether I lose subscribers or whatever, then you are tuning into the right guy. Especially if you don't mind me pissing you off every once in a while, because I don't follow any specific mold. I just try to be as objective as I possibly can, and a lot of times I try to poke holes even in my own hypothesis and even in my own ideas. So that means that I'm never going to be a Ben Shapiro, right? In other words, I'm never going to be a Peter Schiff. And that's not saying that they're bad. I'm never going to be a Michael Saylor. I'm never going to be a Max Kaiser. And again, I'm not saying that those dudes are bad. I don't know Ben. I know the other guys, and they're good dudes. What I'm saying is that when you tune in to Peter or Max, you know exactly what you're going to get. You know what they're going to say. You know what their opinion is going to be on X, Y, and Z. That's never, ever, 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 ever going to be me. That's never going to be George Gammon. Because I don't double and triple and down. I try to do the opposite of that. I try to get outside of an echo chamber and challenge my own belief system. And a lot of times that forces me to take a step back and change my opinion or have a different opinion than the majority of the people that agree with me on the other 95% of the stuff. So anyway, and why is this dangerous? Because if you allow yourself to fall victim to this tribalism, then what you're doing is you're basically saying, okay, I am okay with bigger government as long as it's achieving an objective that I want to achieve. And my position is no, don't do that. That is not the right approach. Because what that does is, let's just assume that by expanding the scope of government, Donald Trump does X, Y, and Z things that are favorable. Okay, what happens when Trump's not there? Then you get the guy that you don't like, that's going to take the increased powers of the government that Donald Trump himself created, and this is a hypothetical scenario, and he or she is going to use that against you, the freedom and liberty and free market capitalism loving individual. See, that's the problem here. So as an example, and we're going to get to this when we go over the executive orders. If look, I think that this whole, let's just say, men participating in women's sports is insanity. I think it is literally dangerous to women. I think it's horrible and I think it should be abolished as quickly as we can do it. Do I think the federal government should do that? And do I think that should be an executive order? Absolutely, unequivocally not. No. No, 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 no. In fact, if there, and I'm not saying there is, but I know he signed something like that I think is good because he said the government isn't going to get involved. But I'm just assuming for a moment that he signed an executive order, let's just say he did, that made that illegal, federally illegal, for men to participate in women's sports. I would say that is absolutely a bad thing, unequivocally. Why? Because it has nothing to do with the federal government. You're expanding the scope of the federal government. Now, do I think that at an individual, at a state level, or not even at a state level, because that's involving the government, at the, let's just say it's the NBA, do I think that they should come out with a rule banning women from participating in the women's WNBA? Absolutely. Absolutely, I would favor that. But just because I favor it, the WNBA doing that, that doesn't mean that I favor Donald Trump doing that at a federal level with an executive order. That's the difference. That's the difference. And I want to try my very best to persuade you to think about things in those terms. So just because the federal government is doing something I like doesn't mean that I think it should be done. Because again, what that sets us up for is the next guy or girl coming in and utilizing that power against you. You're just creating a slippery slope. And that's what takes me back to principles. 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 When we go through these executive orders, I mean, my starting point is just, does this decrease the size of government, or does it increase the size of government? That's my, and I know there's a lot of nuance there, but that's my starting point. And if it increases the size of government, even if it's something I like women or like men not participating in women's sports, I'm going to sit back and say, okay, this is something that I really need to scrutinize. Because in order for me to get on board with expanding the size of government, the trade-offs have to overwhelmingly be a net positive. Because again, there are no solutions, are there? There are only trade-offs. So I want to look at what this is going to do in the short term and what this is and could potentially do in the long term. What are the unintended consequences? What are the knock-on effects going to be? And then determine, okay, is this something that I think is a net positive? Now, every once in a while, I will come to the conclusion, yes. But 99% of the time, I'm going to come to the conclusion, no, if it's expanding the size of government. But I don't just, if it's expanding the size of government, I don't just immediately throw it in the wastebasket. I want to be clear. I'm just using that as a starting point to scrutinize this in a way that I might not otherwise scrutinize. And I want to be extremely critical of it. And also, too, with Trump, you know, I voted for him, like I said, and I'm rooting for him. I'm absolutely rooting for him. But I also understand that he is by nature an authoritarian. He is by nature a central planner. So it's not that he can't, you know, on net balance, have enact positive measures or have a presidency that impacts the United States in a positive way over the next 4 years. But our starting point has to be that he's a central planner and an authoritarian at heart, and therefore you got to give him a very short leash. And you have to be very, very critical. Support him, but you got to call him out immediately. You got to set the bar higher for him than you would for other people. It's also very similar to, I would imagine, coaching your kid on their soccer team. you don't want to give them a pass because you don't want them to get lazy just because of nepotism. You actually want to set the bar a little higher for your kid than you do the other kids, just to make sure that you're not favoring them and you're giving them that short leash that we talked about, so to speak, right? Okay. So just to go over this one more time, we got Trump coming out with his own, or came out with his own coin, let's say. And I mean, there's so much going on here, guys. Let's get into, let's just put Trump on the shelf for a moment here and go over what this meme coin mania and everyone jumping on the band. Now we have preachers doing this, for heaven's sakes. I mean, and they're doing it in the name of religion. I mean, this is disgusting. This is repulsive. This is borderline evil. So I'm going to go ahead and switch up the screen share because I want you guys to hear this preacher that Trump had at the inauguration and see what he's saying about his meme coin. Keep in mind that I doubt he set this up. He probably just lent it, his name to someone, but he is out there actively promoting this thing, understanding that 90% of the people that follow him and are doing this under the guise of whatever, helping the church or whatever good cause, that they're going to lose their money. And he's going to collect the money, even if it's through collecting fees or whatever. And you want to sit and have to listen to this guy. You want to sit there and tell me that 100% of that money is going to help the poor or the needy? Come on. If that's the case, I've got some oceanfront property in Arizona. I would love to sell you. But I actually want to do a screen share so you guys can hear this, because I think in a way this represents what is happening in today's society and the moral decay that we are seeing in real time. The wealth of society has nothing to do with the amount of money or the amount of gold or Bitcoin or any of this nonsense. I shouldn't say nonsense, but any of this hysteria or hype, right? It's about goods and services. It's about goods and services. Is this help? Is fart coin? Is Melania coin? Is preacher coin? Is butthole coin helping us to produce more goods and services? If so, I'd love to know how. It's just simply the only purpose is a Ponzi scheme. And yet people are literally cheering it on and openly, knowingly buying a Ponzi scheme just in hopes that they're some of the first to buy the Ponzi scheme, and therefore they get out without holding the bag and make a little bit of a profit. That's the point where we are right now in American society. That is a sad state, my friends. That is a sad state. I remember when Bernie Madoff, I mean, just think about that. You all remember Bernie Madoff, I'm sure. Maybe some of you that are younger might not. But think about that. Think about people just starting, after Bernie Madoff went to jail or whatever. Think about people just starting their own. And instead of people being like, what? No, absolutely not. Of course, I'm not going to invest in a Ponzi scheme. Imagine everyone saying, oh, a Ponzi scheme? Oh, fantastic. Oh, well, I mean, take my money, take all of it. In fact, set up 2 or 3 Ponzi schemes. We don't have enough Ponzi schemes. I would love to invest in more Ponzi schemes. That's literally what's happening right now. And it's like I can't get my head around it. But let me do a screen share so you guys can hear this. Josh, I don't know. Have you heard this guy?
No, I'm not sure who he is.
All right. Can you let me just
Jesus
make sure.
Christ, would you help me?
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go, guys. This is the state of America here, and this is at a certain extent you gotta put some of the blame on Trump that he's a part of this. I mean, he is actively promoting this.
I need you to do me a favor right now. I need you to go buy the official Lorenzo Sewell coin. I want you to be able to see politics become manifest, not just in a way where we're praying over political gatherings, but where we're seeing us become the hands and the feet of the Lord Jesus Christ. Would you help me? Would you?
No words. No words. I mean, look, I sincerely hope that this guy has good intentions and he's just totally ignorant to what he is doing. Basically like the Hawk Tuah girl. I would assume that the Hawk Tuah girl had no idea what she was doing. She was completely ignorant. And some guy, some crypto bro came up to her and said, "Hey, do this coin." And she's like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And then, you're going to make $1 million. Okay. Having no idea what happens behind the scenes, having no idea of the pump and dump, having no idea over quite frankly, the complete illegality of what happened with the Hawk Tuah stuff. I doubt she was really the mastermind there. Right. So I could give her, I don't know if I could give her a pass, but I don't think she's just this, purely evil person. I don't know this dude. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and assume he's in that same category. If he's not, and he's actually using the church and religion to actively pump a Ponzi scheme that he is going to benefit from, even if he's not selling the coins, he's collecting churn fees, basically.
Help us in this endeavor.
I don't know why it did that, but that is a level of, he's a sociopath. If he falls into that category, he is quite literally a sociopath. Which, unfortunately, I'm a Christian, and unfortunately, a lot of these, as you guys know, especially those of you that are older, a lot of these daytime TV preachers, at the end, it turns out that they weren't the former, they were the latter, meaning they weren't the ignorant person, they were the knowing sociopath.
Us become the hands and the feet of the Lord Jesus Christ. Would you help me? Would you help us in this endeavor? Would you go and purchase the coin in order for us to do what we need to do in the ministry? We do transportation, housing, education. We heal medical, mental, and dental illnesses. I need you to do.
And what else do you do? You see, this is always my question. You heal mental illnesses and whatnot. What else do you do? I don't want to get into it, but my guess is that 100% of whatever your churn fees are, or whatever you get from this pump and dump, or them using your name, or marketing fees, or sponsorship dollars, my guess is 100% of that isn't going down to the local orphanage. My guess is it's going in to buy your Rolls Royce. That's a guess. I hope I am wrong.
Do me a favor and go and get that coin in order for us to accomplish the vision that God has called us to do in our earth. I give God glory for what he has done, but we know that King's dream can only be fulfilled if we acknowledge that people are living in a nightmare. So here,
right. So now what he's doing is he's also tying in Martin Luther King, saying that if you believe in Martin Luther King's dream, well, then you need to go out and buy my shit coin. You need to go out and buy my pump and dump Ponzi scheme. That has no value whatsoever. I saw a couple other people on Twitter, really positioning this as if it's just a matter of number go up, right? So they think that my position is what defines an S coin is just one where people lose money and the number goes down. And if it goes up, well, then it's not an S coin. No. That's not the definition. That's not it. It's not it. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. I mean, even with Tether, which I don't really like, at least supposedly it's backed by U.S. treasuries and some other assets, right? If you buy, look, if you buy the Sprott Gold Trust, you're buying a piece of paper. You could call that an S coin. Okay, fine, but it's an S coin that's backed 1-to-1 by gold, for heaven's sakes. This is nothing. This is nothing. You're just literally taking money out of your pocket and lighting it on fire. And this guy's promoting that in the name of the church, in the name of Martin Luther King Jr. I spoke with Chris McIntosh yesterday, as a lot of you tuned in for. I'd strongly suggest watching that interview. And I think he summed it up very well. He said, what you're seeing is late stage empire. I wish he was wrong. But I don't see how he is. And it's not just this. And now the president of the United States is doing this. The first lady is doing this. Don't you think they did the exact same thing in Rome or something similar? And again, if it was just this, it would be one thing. But we're living in a country where you can't even go into Walmart and buy this pen because it's locked up behind some sort of bank safe where you got to go ask the tenant to open up the lock just so you can go in and buy this $2 pen. Because if they didn't lock it up in Walmart, it would immediately be stolen. That's the society we live in right now. We live in a society where it's never a question of integrity. It's just simply a question of whether or not you made money. This is moral decay, guys. This is moral decay, and it's coming straight from the top. So again, I'll give Trump credit where credit is due. I think he did fabulous. I think he said some great stuff on Rogan. I love what he's doing as far as taking government out of the censorship game. But I'm going to call a spade because we have to remember that no matter how much you love Trump, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And he's already a guy that I can't find a principal North Star, and obviously he doesn't have any integrity, or he wouldn't be doing this, or his integrity is incredibly selective. That's giving him the benefit of the doubt. And you know that his nature is being an authoritarian and a central planner. I mean, it's in a way I get it, because when you run a business, you have to be an authoritarian and a central planner to a certain extent, right? It's just when you're trying to do that with an economy, that's when it doesn't work. When all that power is centralized at a local level, that's fine. You do that in your own business. You do that with your own family, for heaven's sakes. Great. It works with your own family, with your kids. But gets very dangerous when you do it at a federal level. And that's why the damn Constitution is so important. It's so important that we take the federal powers away from Washington, D.C., and we move it back to the states. You know, I've given Trump a very hard time over this S-coin, which I think he absolutely deserves. Now, let me give him a pat on the back. And oh, by the way, before I get there, just FYI, I don't know who the hell Rex is, but they have now filed for a Doge ETF and a Trump S-coin ETF. So I wanted to give the mix because why not, right? Why not participate in the moral collapse of the United States empire? So Josh, did you see this big announcement? I don't know if I told you what I was doing here.
Wow. Looks fancy.
It is very fancy. It is very fancy. George Gammon, and guys, but I'm gonna use some profanity here. So with the kids, earmuffs. I'm officially launching the shit and Ponzi 500 or the S&P 500. This will be the top 500 shit coins and Ponzi schemes, all in one easy to buy ETF. We're doing it, Josh. We're drinking the Kool-Aid. What do you think?
It sounds like there's a lot of utility there.
There is a ton of utility. So you better get your checkbook out because this is something you're going to want to buy. The new George Gammon S&P 500. Okay. Now let's get over to these are the executive orders. We're going to go over that in just a minute. But what I wanted to do is go back and look at the way Trump handled the cerveza sickness. Because now this was, 4 or 5 years ago. It's in our distant memory. And I wanted to use this as a litmus test to how much wiggle room he would have with his principles. If he did have principles, which I don't think he does. But fortunately, I think his instincts are good. I don't think he ever asked himself, okay, what is my principal North Star? And therefore, I'm going to make these decisions, these very, very difficult decisions based on that North Star. I don't think he ever has that conversation with himself. But I think what he does, he lines up all these things in front of him and he says, okay, what this makes sense and that makes sense. And let's do this, this, and this. And there you go. That's him using his instincts. And I think that the good thing about Trump is I do believe that a lot of times his instincts are for the not just his intentions are for the good of the country, but his instincts result in policies that on net balance are good for the country. Well, let me give you an example. So this is according to KFF, and this is just, you're
going to have to reshare your screen for us to see
that's
that.
right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Okay, now let's go back here, Josh. And I just want to go over this quickly here. So the first case of the cerveza sickness was reported World Health Organization in early January. Since then, the cerveza sickness, and this is just basically a recap, probably in 2021. It is also taken particular toll in the U.S. Okay, great, got it. In addition, most state of Donald Trump to date in place of a coordinated national plan to scale up and implement policy measures to control. The Trump administration has chosen to rest the main responsibility for the cerveza sickness on the states. Good on Trump there. Great move. And he wasn't perfect in the cerveza sickness, but a lot of what he did, I think is fantastic. While this part reflects federalism and decentralized nature of the U.S. public health, they're kind of ripping on him, saying this could have increased the spread, blah, 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 blah. So that took balls to do that. Early on, the Trump's response to outbreak was lock up the border. I mean, I don't know if I agree with, but I think that's understandable. By mid-March, facing growing cases, okay, several states, stay-at-home orders, and social distancing. So for the most part, even with the masks, it seemed like what Trump did was give suggestions to the states as to what they should be doing. He never came in like Biden and did the mandates and all these. He never forced people. He never forced states. He might have done a couple things there, but not at a broad level. He didn't force them to do that many things. And right here, and referring to the lockdowns, he said, we can't let the cure be worse than the problem. And I think that is spot on. And then he went in to do some things with the medicines that I don't think were that great. But although this wasn't principled, his instincts brought him to what I would argue would have been the principled decision. So if Ron Paul would have been president back then, I think his policy or his approach to this would have been similar, not exactly, obviously, but would have been similar to what Trump did. And the difference there, again, is I can assure you that Ron Paul would have been making those decisions based on principle. All right, now let's go into the executive orders. And one thing I've got to call it, I haven't looked at the news in the last couple hours, but this goes back to Trump's integrity. And I did a tweet on this the other day where, I want to show you the receipts here. Where Trump said, day one, you release Ross Ulbricht. Let's see here. So here you go. Biggest question I have is, will he keep his word on the pardon for Ross Ulbricht? If not, I'm going to completely disregard everything he says on the campaign. And not that I'm not saying he won't do it, but I'm going to assume he's going to do nothing. And then he's going to have to prove to me that he's doing something by action, not words. I say, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And there's a hashtag from Trump that I retweeted. I think that was last night, where right here, this is from October 31st, where he's obviously pandering to Bitcoiners here, saying happy 16th anniversary of Satoshi's white paper. This is before the election. Hashtag free Ross. That's from Trump. As of right now, as far as I know, he has not yet done this. That, to me, if he doesn't do this, especially within the next couple of days here, to me, that's another huge, huge red flag. Probably just as big of a red flag as the crap coins. Let's get back to the executive orders. So I think, Josh, maybe what we should do is go over some of these in detail, but I'm just going to go over how I see these based on just the titles, right? Which admittedly is not doing a thorough analysis, right? I've gone through a lot of these, but I just don't have the time on this video or else this would go another 3 or 4 hours. So again, my starting point for this, guys, and you can use this or not, this is just the way I do it, is just asking myself, will this increase the size of government, or will it likely decrease the size of government? Not just based on the intentions, but based on how this will likely play out in practice. Because often, especially with politics, those are the complete opposite. We saw that with the Patriot Act, right? Or any act that's supposed to increase your freedom. In name and intention, it always has the opposite effect by taking away your freedom. Restoring names that honor great American greatness. I think he renamed Mount McKinley. I didn't even know that it was renamed I thought it was still Mount McKinley. I had no idea that they named it something else. But you know, fine. It's not really increasing the size of government. So just, I would say that this is usually, I'm not saying, well, usually when you see societies start to crumble, these are the types of things that they do: rename the monuments, rename the stuff, and start changing the calendar and all these things. But anyway, well, I'll just give that a I'm agnostic on that. Okay, designate cartels and other organizations foreign terrorists. This I'm very, very leery of. Very leery. Why? Because every single time that I can remember in my life that we had a government policy that was involving the word terrorism, all that did is give more power to the federal government to go after the terrorists. But what happens in practice is they don't go after the terrorists as much as they go after American citizens. So I get it. This is supposed to, decrease the power of the cartels and child trafficking and drugs and blah, 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 blah. I totally get it. But again, that's the intention. Is Trump going to be the guy that's actually implementing these policies? No. It's going to be other people that may not have the same, let's say, objectives as Donald Trump does. Right? I mean, do I have to remind you what happened with the Patriot Act? Right? That was giving the government more power to go after the terrorists. Okay, how did that work out in net balance? In fact, I remember listening to a podcast from my good buddy James over at pen name Simon Black at Sovereign Man, when he actually went over all the arrests that had been done under the Patriot Act, and like 99% of them were American citizens. Like 1% were actual terrorists. And that's the problem when you get into these. And the rebuttal I always get is, well, George, they have to do something. They got to do something. What do you favor child trafficking? No, of course not. But we want to do something that on net balance is going to benefit American people with that principle that we should be increasing personal liberty and freedom. We should be increasing the rights of American citizens. We should not be decreasing the rights of American citizens. Because let's just assume for a moment we were able to decrease child trafficking or drugs or whatever it is. Would that be good? Absolutely. Of course it would. Of course it would. But then the next question becomes, at what cost? Like, I'm sure we could go ahead and reduce child trafficking if we locked up every American citizen in jail. But on net balance, would that be a good thing? See, so I'm not saying that this is on net balance negative. I'm saying I am very, very leery because I have seen how this has played out in the past, and it's once bitten, twice shy. Reforming the federal hiring process and restoring merit. Okay, yeah, I can definitely get behind that. Although I would prefer to, instead of the reforming of the federal hiring process, to me would be not hiring anyone. Why don't we just stop hiring at a federal level? I thought we were going to start firing at a federal level. Why are we talking about hiring? So if you do hire, sure, we want to do it on merit. But why are we hiring more federal employees? I would prefer just a ban on hiring more. Again, is this bigger government, smaller government? So I'm going to give him a pass on that one. I mean, I get it, but I would just prefer to stop the hiring process altogether. Ending radical and wasteful government DEI programs. Great. Reducing government. Give him a thumbs up on that one. Assuming that there's not a lot of fine print in here. Again, we're just going off the titles. Defending women from gender ideology extremism. Okay, so I think that this means that the government isn't going to push this, which I would be totally in favor for. But like I said earlier, if this is the government making it illegal for the WNBA to allow men to play against women, then I would not be in favor of it, even though I don't think that men should play against women for the reasons I stated at the beginning of this video. Establishing and implementing the President's Department of Government Efficiency. So this would be we're increasing the size of government, but we're doing it to decrease the size of government. So I think I would probably be reluctantly in favor of this. I like the Doge idea for sure, but I don't know, why does it have to be a department of government? Why do we need a department of government for that? Why don't we just ask Elon Musk, hey, dude, just do an analysis and give me your feedback and I'll do it. Why do we need a government agency to do that? And again, the reason there is because once you start a government agency, like Milton Friedman said, there's nothing permanent than a temporary government program or a temporary government agency, because it starts as this, which is something, yay, you know, we get behind. And then 4 or 5 years later, it's morphed into this monster that Kamala Harris has control of. And she's using that to, you know, give more power to Klaus or whatever. That's how these things usually turn out. So we just need to be cognizant of that and incorporate that into our analysis of the costs and benefits. Protecting the United States from foreign terrorists. Oh. All right. Same thing as the cartels. Unleashing Alaska's extraordinary resource potential. So rescinds, I'm assuming this is reducing regulation, all 4. So thumbs up on that one. Protecting the American people against invasion. I'm guessing, I don't know. If I had to go for something with the government, it would be, you know, kind of the Milton Friedman view that we're just protecting the borders and we're not getting involved in other wars, but we're basically maintaining a rule of law. So without getting into this, I'm going to take a pass. I would be agnostic on that. If I read the details, I might give it a thumbs up or I might give it a thumbs down. Reevaluating and realigning United States foreign aid. Well, if that involves just almost cutting it off completely, then I'm for that. If that just involves rejiggering it to take funds from Ukraine and move them over to my other pet project, then no, I would not be in favor of that. Declaring a national energy emergency. See, this is, again, this is one of those things where, do I think that we should drill, baby, drill? Sure. I think we should reduce regulations there. But do we need to give the federal government the power to go in and make things happen and shake it up? No, I don't know why we would. Let's just reduce the regulations, cut the red tape, cut the bureaucracy. I don't know why we need to declare a national emergency to do that. This, once we start declaring all these, then Trump becomes a king, right? And you may think that's fantastic because you like his policies, but be very, very careful what you wish for. Because once we start crowning kings, we're going to get a king that you don't like. I can assure you of that. Restoring death penalty. I'd have to look further into that. I see pros and cons there. I mean, I look at that as, I'm one of those people that would far prefer that 100 men go free than one innocent man be behind bars. That's my North Star. That's my principle. Obviously, I favor rule of law, but I would much prefer to err on that side. So I'm going to take a pass on this one without reading it further. Securing our borders. Yeah, but I mean, let's be honest, guys. If you're one of these MAGA people that actually think that building a wall or, you know, getting tough on the border or whatever is going to prevent people from coming in, you are utterly and totally naive. Why is that? There are so many tunnels going under that Mexicans come across literally at will. Literally at will. And I know this because I spent a lot of time in Nogales, and I talked to a lot of the Mexican guys over there. And when I talk to them about the wall, they literally laugh at me. Like, well, what are you talking about? We have 45,000 tunnels and a wall. We just go right underneath. And it's the easiest thing it's so easy to walk across the border. They're like, this is a joke. This is a joke. And that's when Trump was there. I'm not talking about Biden. I spent a lot of time in Nogales in 2017 when Trump was in office. Right? So are we going to stop people from crossing the border by getting tough and building a wall? No. If they want to come across, they're going to come across. But what I do favor is not incentivizing people to come across by saying, oh, if you come across, we're going to give you a $10,000 debit card. And, oh, hey, Venezuela, ring, ring, ring. Hey, do me a favor. Send me all your criminals over and all your gang members, and I'll set them up with a free bus ride to New York. I'll set them up with a hotel room, and I'll set them up with this new debit card, and everything's going to be great. And I'm just going to turn a blind eye to all the criminals that are coming. No, so I'm not saying, just completely open it up just because, there's nothing we can do about it. I am saying let's not incentivize. I would like to get rid of welfare, by the way, because that's really what would reduce the amount of people coming in that we didn't want to be here. But let's go ahead and just keep what we've got. I wouldn't allocate a lot of resources. Just go back to what it was prior to Biden. Let's not incentivize it. But let's also be realistic when we're allocating scarce resources with alternative uses, and understanding that if we do something like building a wall, that's literally just it's theater. It's kabuki theater. Just let's not kid ourselves and make ourselves believe that actually makes a difference or deters someone from coming over. Protecting the meaning of the value of American citizenship. I don't know what this is. I think it's revolving like the babies, having a baby in the U.S. I don't know why anyone would want to do that. The simple solution here is just get rid of welfare. And if you get rid of welfare, then you're not going to have anyone coming across and wanting their baby to be born here. And if you do, and you give them a citizenship, okay, well, now they're just in the tax net for the rest of their life. So it's not like you're giving them anything. That would be just them giving you something in the form of taxes. But right now, with all the welfare and healthcare and blah, blah, all these freebies that we give out, it is a net draw for a lot of these babies that are born in the United States that get that U.S. passport. Realigning the United States refugee admissions program. I didn't look into that. Unleashing American energy. We talked about that earlier. Clarifying the military's role in protecting territorial integrity of the United States. Again, I think this is border stuff. I want to be clear. I'm not saying just open up the border. I'm saying be very, very careful about the resources that you allocate to that, because most of those resources, I can assure you, are going to be wasted, and they're not going to move the needle. And the wall is just a perfect example. Holding former government officials accountable for election interference. I'd have to really think about that one. I mean, I get it. I get why he did this. He revoked the clearance, or the security clearance, from the 50 people that signed on to the whole Hunter Biden Russia laptop ruse. Yeah, I mean, those people should not be in a position of power or have security. So yeah, I think I'd give him a thumbs up on that one. Restoring accountability to policy influencing positions within the federal workforce. Again, I would like, if this is him forcing people to come back and work 5 days a week, I like that. Not that I want these people employed, but it's going to mean that most of them are going to quit, and the net result is still the same. So any policy that involves him forcing workers to come back into the office, I think is a good thing. Withdrawing the United States from the World Health Organization, triple thumbs up, quadruple thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. And I know he took us out of the Paris Accord as well. So triple, quadruple thumbs up on that one as well. Bravo, Trump. That's an example of his instincts being good, even though he's has no integrity and no principles. Or selective integrity, I should say. Okay, application of protecting Americans from foreign adversaries controlled application. I don't know what is going on with TikTok, because if there is anyone that I would have thought would have been anti-TikTok because the whole China, it's all about China, it's going to be Trump. But now all of a sudden he's like pro TikTok. I don't know. Something's weird. Something weird is happening there behind the scenes, and I don't know what it is. It's just bizarre that this is in the executive orders, but yeah, the jury's out on this one. Initial recessions of harmful executive orders. Okay, I like that. I like that. I can see how that's reducing government. Restoring freedom of speech. Bravo. Ending federal censorship. Bravo, bravo, bravo. So now I don't like the government coming in and forcing Twitter to do something or forcing Facebook to do something. I would be opposed to that. Even if the result on Facebook was what I wanted. That's, in my view, that's the principled position. I would want Facebook to do that on their own. But if this is the government ending what we have seen blatantly in the past is the government coming in and forcing the social media platforms to censor, then obviously I am hugely in favor of this. And this, I would give him like 10, maybe 20 thumbs up. Because at the end of the day, I was a one-issue voter, and that everything revolved around free speech. Because if we lose free speech, we're done. We're done. And if we have free speech, we can get ourselves out of almost any hole. So if let's just say that right now that I had given him 10 thumbs down and 10 thumbs up, or let's just say I had given him 10 thumbs down and 2 thumbs up. This would even it out, right? In fact, this would take him into the positive because this is such a huge issue for me. Ending the weaponization of the federal government. I don't know what that means. Putting America first in the international environment agreements, getting out of the Plaza Accord or the Paris Agreement. I love it. I love it. I love it. So just, using this brief analysis without getting into the nitty gritty. And then Ross, where's Ross? I don't see Ross on here. So that's going to give him 5 thumbs down right there. But I would give Trump about probably a C+. No, I'd probably give him a B. I'd give him a B on this. Yeah, I'd give him a B. I'd like to see other stuff. I'd like to see the reduction. I don't like the things he's doing to increase government. But I think on net, I think this is a slight positive for sure. And for that, I would give him a B. Now, if we throw in the S coins, I'm bringing him down to about a C. But just based on these executive orders, that's my final answer. We're giving him a B, and on net balance, he's got, this is definitely positive. All right, guys, on that bombshell, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. As always, make sure that you are standing up for freedom, liberty, free market capitalism, and objectivity. We'll see you on the next video.